Hey guys, my name is Benedict Kim, and I wanted to tell you about what's been going on in my life recently involving a court case. I have to go to court in a couple weeks, sometime next month, I think on the 11th of July, and they want me to go to Fairfax County General District Court here in the DC metro area, but this court is actually legally in the state of Virginia. And I wanted to tell you guys about this. So I've been getting swatted a lot here in the DMV, the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, okay? Otherwise known as the DC metro area. And this has been going on in my life for years now, getting swatted. I got swatted a lot in Maryland and Bethesda, in the Potomac Rockville area when we lived there. And I continue to get swatted when we moved to Tyson's Corner, which is actually legally in Northern Virginia, but is a part of the DC metro area and is considered to be within the DMV and the Capital Beltway. So, the last time I got swatted, I was given this phony notice, this one, and basically people showed up to my house, like 5 goon squad Fairfax County police people, right, who quite frankly look like Westfield Tyson's Corner mall cops, because I live right next to Tyson's Corner Westfield Mall, right? I live like less than a mile away from the Tyson's Corner metro station. And so suddenly these guys show up to my house, all right? They knock on my door and they're clearly ready to take me away. And I have been swatted. I don't know what the 911 call was that they responded to, but I think the original intention was to cart me away. But then they kind of back down and they hand me this. And it's like a phony arrest warrant. So what they had told me was that a year ago, all right, they're claiming that a year ago I had committed an act of indecent exposure for something I had said at an emergency room here in the DC metro area at Enova Hospital. All right. So basically, I had been swatted yet again about a year and a half ago. I would say sometime in early 2024. I would say that's when that happened. I had been taken away by Fairfax County Police after getting swatted, and they actually locked me up in an emergency room at Enova Fairfax Hospital. And these people were trying to say that I had committed an act of indecent exposure in that hospital emergency room by saying something inappropriate to a nurse. All right, they're saying that I had asked a nurse for a blowjob, and and that was an act of indecent exposure, and they were trying to charge me for that crime. But it seems like I've already been convicted of a misdemeanor act of indecent exposure, according to the website for the Fairfax County Courts here in Northern Virginia, in the DC metro area. I'm somehow already convicted, but but these people, when they showed up to my home to swat me, all right, they hand me this, and they basically say that for an incident a year and a half ago, I'm being charged now with indecent exposure, and I have to show up to court in like a couple weeks now, okay, to answer for this charge. And let me tell you this, because I would love to talk about that swatting that happened about a year and a half ago, all right, the swatting that led to this indecent exposure charge. Okay, so in that incident, basically like 5, 6 police officers show up to my home in Tyson's Corner. Okay, the actual address is 2117 Robin Way Court, Dunloring, Virginia, 22182. They show up to my family's home, my family home where I live right now, and basically they say that they were responding to a 911 emergency call, all right, and that someone had made a 911 call saying that, I did XYZ, that I was going crazy, and they asked my mom whether she wants to have me taken away. And my mom at the time wasn't very happy with me. Okay, she's usually not. I don't know how to put it. She's this funny Filipino woman. That's what I still think. All right, she might have been Vietnamese. Okay, maybe she's South Korean, as she says, but she was, living in New York. She was also living in L.A. and San Jose. All right, and she's kind of a funny person. Definitely an immigrant. Okay, first generation immigrant to America. So she actually goes along with what the police are doing and says it's okay for them to just take me away. And then without charging me with a crime, without reading me my Miranda rights, okay, telling me that I have the right to remain silent and so on, okay, so without due process, they suddenly put cuffs on me and dragged me away to the police car. And I refused to go. I blatantly refused to go, okay? So right at the door of the police car, I refused to get in. And these guys, they basically try to force me into the Fairfax County police car over the course of the next 30 minutes. And I bet someone got video of that because this all happened outside, right? And there was like yelling and screaming, right? But these people do not make a proper arrest. And because they don't read me my Miranda rights, all right, I realized that it was a weird kidnapping, so I refused to get into the car. I don't get charged for that, okay? But it's because it was an improper arrest at best. And then I get taken to the emergency room of Enova Fairfax Hospital, okay, on Gallows Road, here in the Capitol Beltway in Northern Virginia, okay, in the DC metro area. And I get handcuffed to a bed in the emergency room, okay, and I'm left there all night like that, for the most part, in an empty room, okay, handcuffed to a bed, all right, and these guys are now saying that because I said something indecent to a nurse, okay, while in this hospital emergency room, handcuffed to a bed, I committed an act of indecent exposure, which is like a very serious sex crime, all right? That's enough of a sex crime to get registered as a sex offender. But they're saying that over something I said, right, while being detained illegally, to be honest, I'm guilty of indecent exposure and basically a registered sex offender for that? Like, I don't think so. And it gets worse. After I get illegally detained in the emergency room of Enova Fairfax Hospital, I get forced into a psych unit, okay? So I basically get interned into a psych unit on the Enova Fairfax Hospital campus, all right? And I get locked up in there for more than a week, and it's basically a kidnapping, all right? So no charge still, no real arrest, okay? No lawyer, all right? No right to remain silent, no Miranda laws respected, and instead I just get locked up, okay, in a psych ward in Enova Fairfax Hospital, all right, straight from the emergency room. And I get taken to the psych ward in handcuffs. I get taken to there by some guy wearing a sheriff's uniform, okay? And it was complete bogus. And there was an enormous bill sent to our medical insurance, Blue Cross Blue Shield Federal. And of course, it was also a big copay. Right, so the bill for the whole thing gets footed over to our health insurance plan, Blue Cross Blue Shield Federal, and of course my family also pays the copay, but there was money involved, and I'm pointing that out, and I'm pretty sure that it was like a five-figure bill total, okay, so there was money. You just need to follow the money in this case, all right, and I could help anyone who's interested, okay, in getting that paperwork from Blue Cross Blue Shield Federal. The plan is under my dad's name, Dr. Scott Kim. He works for U.S. Congress, and he has a government health insurance plan. And it was atrocious, okay? And look at this, guys. This is the notice sent to me recently by those Fairfax County police officers, whatever, mall cops, all right, telling me I have to go to court. And look at this emblem, guys. Look at this emblem for the state of Virginia. This is Pussy Riot, guys. Like, I recognize this right away. You see this? You see this funny emblem for the state of Virginia? That's not authentic. This is not the emblem, the seal of the state of Virginia, guys. This is some sort of Pussy Riot art, okay? That's how much of a farce this is, all right? So all you have to do is follow the money at this point, all right? Who got this insurance money from Blue Cross Blue Shield, okay? For this psych unit stay of more than a week, All right. Why wasn't I properly charged with a crime at any time while I was in the psych ward or while I was in the emergency room? All right. I was even taken to a police station. All right. Before I was sent to the emergency room, okay, by Fairfax County Police, I was sent to a police station. All right. And I was handcuffed to a rail there, and I was kept there for more than an hour. Okay. And they did not charge me with a crime at any time. They were saying that it was an issue of mental health, that they were doing some sort of mental health intervention. Okay, they're doing something that people actually do in Maryland, where they force people into psych wards. Okay, saying that it's because of mental health reasons. Okay, and they were trying to do that here in the state of Virginia. All right, and even though this is in the DMV in the Capitol Beltway, all right, it's not legal to actually do that here. It's not legal at all to actually do this, especially without a crime, especially without charging someone for a crime, even without Miranda rights, all right, due process, okay, a lawyer. Like, this was so stupid the way this went down that I actually do suspect that it was Pussy Riot or some weird Eastern European entity in the end that decided to do this for the insurance money, okay? Because I went over it that in the end, Blue Cross Blue Shield Federal, the health insurance plan we're under, my family's health insurance plan, was definitely charged a 5-figure bill at least by Enova Fairfax Hospital and I think also Fairfax County Court. And these guys, after this incident, they swatted me at least another 2 times, all right? I'll put it that way, that there was another 2 swattings at least after this, all right? If not 3, okay? So the swattings have continued, but I got those swattings on camera and I was able to get the police to stop, which just shows why, dash cam cameras, okay, on officer cameras definitely work for these beat cops, right? Who are just making minimum wage, looking for a scheme. Okay, so they backed down that time. But these people were definitely trying to lock me up in a hospital again, and they're trying to get another 5 figures from our insurance policy, our health insurance plan, all right? Blue Cross Blue Shield Federal, and someone needs to look into this. Okay, guys? I shouldn't even need to have to go to court. I shouldn't have to acknowledge the validity of this. That makes this valid. That's how kangaroo courts work. They want to actually get procedures going, right, in motion, okay? It gives them a sense of legitimacy. You want to shoot this down right away and figure out what's going on. And if these people aren't even U.S. nationals, okay, if they're just a bunch of weird fucking foreign intelligence agents here doing shit like this, all right, someone needs to act. And I'm sorry, the only way you can really take people like that on is with like an army, is with people with guns responding, all right, quite frankly, to foreign intelligence doing shit like this here, all right, causing chaos, corrupting the system, making a joke, okay, out of the police. And this all happened right here in Tyson's Corner, less than a mile away from Tyson's Corner Westfield Mall in the DC metro area, in the nation's capital, the Capitol Beltway. And this is urgent. Someone needs to look into this right away, all right, guys? I'm Benedict Kim. If you have more questions, feel free to ask me, email me. All right. Otherwise, yeah, it's been pretty terrible. It's been pretty terrible living here, to be honest. Like, dealing with this type of bullshit, it's even worse than anything you might see on YouTube for swatting in LA or New York. It's even worse. Okay, at least in LA or New York, this would have been corrected. It would have never gone this fucking far with this emblem. Okay, being masqueraded around as legit. It's that bad here in Virginia, and it gets that bad, that dirty, that corrupt in the Capitol Beltway sometimes, all right, in the DMV. And people know it around here. And someone needs to do something, guys. Someone needs to. I'm Benedict Kim, guys. See you guys later. Bye.